Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. My name is Katie Gideon, and I'm dialing in from Edinburgh, Scotland. We are so glad that you're here. I am going to be the on-camera facilitator for this weekly setup. And I want to give a huge shout out to my co-facilitator, who you'll see in the chat, Bailey, who just got back from vacation. And we got a little mini book club that we always have to catch up on just because we've been talking about it for ages. So that was what we were doing. But we are glad that you're here. It is a lovely, lovely day. Hopefully, it's a lovely day where you all are at as well. But welcome. We are glad that you're here. We are glad that you are joining us. I love seeing all of our returning socialers in the chat. It is so great to see all of your names. I thoroughly enjoy catching up with each and every one of you. Just kind of living your lives and getting to check in. And I just love that this is absolutely a part of my schedule for the weekends. And so glad that so many of you are including it here because we are the best accountability buddies that each of us have. And then if you are new, we are so glad that you're here as well. You can share as much or as little in the chat as you want. Just make sure that it is set to everyone. For hosts and panelists, that comes just to myself and Bailey, and we are always happy to answer questions there. But we usually assume you want to chat with everybody else. That's also why you're here. But we are glad that you are here. We are so glad that we're going to get started. And as always, please be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. Limit repetitive product and accessory questions, though we do like to chat about them. We just don't want them to detract too much. And as always, why Bailey and I have some information. We do not have a lot around specific accounting, those type of things. So we always recommend to reach out to hello@silkandsonder.com for those customer care inquiries, as well as just general feedback. And then as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. But you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So it doesn't matter whatever type of week you've had. We are glad that you're here. We want to embrace the highs and the lows and everything in between. But if you just feel like you're in one of those moods, you woke up maybe on the wrong side of the bed, don't forget, don't let that kind of cloud your entire day, kind of add up some of those emotional barriers or boundaries that you just want to set yourself because we want you to leave here excited, optimistic, happy, embracing a little bit more of the theme, but also getting ready for your week. So we are embracing this month's theme of simplicity, which I think is a really, really great transition from our past themes from the previous months with authenticity and now simplicity. And even then, I still think there's kind of a little bit of the humor in that simplicity is not so simple. And I think the more I kind of embrace this idea, the more I just can't help but laugh that I feel like in my desire to lead a more simplistic life, I just make it more complicated. But I came across this particular quote, which was silly me. I was so focused on my goals, I almost missed the simple magic everywhere. I felt like this was a very much a personal call out, just because I am very goal oriented. I am a type A personality, very competitive. And even then, the way I approach even just my weekly setups, I need to have a goal. I need to have a goal post. I need to have some sort of thing that I can count down and show a win and a loss and everything in between. So I came across this because I feel like that's also just with so much of just like the simple magic of embracing the kind of simple moments, the simplicity of ordinary days, some of those things. I just thought this was a really, really good reminder without almost like the need to change a lot. And I think it is that reminder to slow down. As I saw someone was prepping for graduation, I feel like this is that time of year, similar to the end of the year holidays, where it's kind of thing after thing after thing. Then it leads into the summer breaks and all of the routines that we've kind of been working on adjust a little bit. And the season change, and everyone wants to spend more time outside. And you get all of these things that start to just add more and more to it. And sometimes it's incorporating all of those things that you're already doing, but it's taking the step back of maybe you're going to go on a walk outside because that's what you do to move, get your steps in, all those things. And maybe you don't listen to music, or maybe you don't listen to that podcast. Maybe you just sit and listen to what's going on around you, the steps that you're taking, the breath that you're doing, those kind of actions as you do. So I feel like it becomes so much of that, the things that we're already doing, how can we pause and be more present? And that's where, again, I felt this was here. Because again, goal oriented, always need to have it, but sometimes just need that general reminder to, yes, think long term, think mid range, think the next 5 years, but don't forget to think about the next 5 minutes and enjoy the minutes that we have. And so now we're going to enjoy the next hour that we have with each other as we set up our journal pages for the week. Whew. So we're going to start with the Simplicity Mind Map, the Rosebud Thorn, and then the weekly setup pages. So, first thing is that mind map. So, this is not in your journal. This is just a weekly setup activity to get the kind of the ball rolling, the ideas going, getting, hoping that maybe your coffee or tea, if you just kind of woke up, have that like kick in a little bit. And so if you haven't set this up, you're going to find a blank spot in your journal. It can be the blank pages. A lot of folks will use the last pages. I have actually pulled one of my older journals that I didn't use as much. So I'm now using those pages. So now all of my mind maps from the last 3 months are like kind of right there by each other. And so it's been really nice. And you're going to break it up into, again, 4 different spaces because we're going to ask 4 different questions each week as we dive a little bit deeper into the simplicity mind map. And so for week one, we talked about kind of the physical possessions. I feel like it was a little bit of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to spring cleaning. So that is from the previous week. And this week, I also felt a little bit called out because some of the things that kind of got under my skin this week, whoo, I felt around scheduling. And I feel like this is again a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to kind of scheduling. So what draining commitments or activities could you eliminate to make space for what truly matters? And again, if you've been to a social with me, I got to think of other ways to answer this question because I like the elegant simplicity of it, but got to change it. Got to tweak it a little bit more. So we have what draining commitments or activities could you eliminate to make space for what truly matters? But when I came across this initial thing, I was like, when was the last time that we defined kind of some of these words? When was the last time that you had a check-in for what you define as a commitment, what you define as an activity? And again, that truly matters moment. Because I feel like if you add in a time scale, because even I was like, well, I have different priorities, honestly, depending on what day of the week it is. I have different priorities for depending on kind of the season. I have different priorities when it comes to different activities. So I kind of got myself in this like a little bit of a spin cycle of, well, I have all of these possibilities depending on these. So I realized I maybe needed to take a moment to maybe redefine some of these. And I think it's a really good way to, you can obviously like zoom out into like, is there a day-to-day commitment or activities that you signed on for? Is there upcoming, draining commitments and activities that you signed up for? So thinking it in terms of those time scales, I thought was a really interesting thing. And so I actually zoomed in a little bit and just focused kind of on my past week. But that's what, again, I like about these mind maps is it can kind of turn it to what I'm feeling, what I need, so that I can put those thoughts and feelings down on paper, but still under this kind of lens of, like I said, I summarized it as scheduling simplicity. And then I like to overlay reality. So the next question is, are these commitments or activities you can control, or do you need to simplify another approach? Um, you know, I find that I get really bent out of shape with some of the work scheduling things, but I know that that's stuff that's out of my control. So instead of trying to simplify those schedules and the schedule of other people, maybe I need to simplify for how I react to those things, how I shouldn't let it get to me, how I shouldn't let it wreck my day and my plans because someone else is not great at planning. So that was kind of the direction I went a little bit. And then I also wanted to kind of peel back that layer of, are we yes people? And I know we've got quite a few folks that consider themselves the people pleaser types, especially if you've done some of those saboteur workshops. And so is there something bigger at you will always say, at why you always say yes to things? And I think it's one of those things I even thought of. I've got like a list. I have a list of like, probably 20 people that if they were to call me, I would drop everything for whatever they asked. And I think of that in those terms of are there people that you always say yes to kind of without thinking? Are there things that you always say yes to without thinking? Are you one of those folks that you just feel pressure at work to always say yes because that's the milestone you're in and kind of stretching yourself thin? So I feel like it was a good opportunity to maybe step back and look a little less at the actual activities, but maybe the reasoning of why you feel like you need to say yes to all of these things. So I feel like I've given everybody a lot to think about. Not that, I didn't follow the advice of simplicity. I did not make this prompt simple in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like with the mind map, it is getting what you kind of want, what you need right now out of it is always a good way to approach this. So would love to hear your kind of scheduling simplicity thoughts as we embrace week 2 of our mind map, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing all of the different perspectives, and it definitely comes down to again that concept of scheduling and how you define scheduling, and saying yes to things and then having to say no to other things. And I think again, it's a little bit of whether you consider it the stark reminder that it's all of us have the same 24 hours. How we use them is all up to us. And I feel like you can certainly see it as like, I need to do better in this area. And I know we always all try to be better. But I also feel like this is another one of those that it's a good opportunity to maybe celebrate. I think it was Nicole mentioned that this is her kind of year of no, but it again, not the no that it's a bad thing. No is the rest and the refresh and those type of things. So I think with this particular question, it's also an opportunity to maybe celebrate some of those boundaries that you've set, some of those thoughts and things that you've already done to already kind of make your life less complicated, make it less draining, make it last of those. Sounds like we got a couple years of no's. Akosua. Hopefully didn't butcher it. But yes, so I feel like that's what I really enjoy about the mind maps. There are times to kind of dig in and it calls you out a little bit and puts you in front of the mirror and makes you be honest with yourself. And then there are other ones that I feel like it's a nice little celebration of sometimes I need work in some areas, but sometimes I think I'm doing things pretty good, and doing it pretty well. And so I feel like this is one of those like nice kind of duality things of can we celebrate the things that we've already said no to, the changes that we've made. And I feel like that's what helps make these mind maps functional and why I get excited about them. Because again, as much as I want to do all the things and make all the changes and I know all those things, sometimes it is just that moment of relief of, actually, I think I'm doing quite well here. So thank you everybody for sharing. Don't worry if you weren't able to answer this. That's why we have it for the week. You can come back and revisit it through this week. And maybe this is another one of those that you come back to visit because there are maybe changes that you can make, especially as we look at our weekly setup pages. Some of those subtle things are just the acknowledgement. And then we'll see what next week brings us. So now we're going to move to our rosebud thorn. So please join me on page 36 in your May journal. This is our opportunity to kind of reflect on the previous week, with the good, the bad, and everything in between. So for a rose, that's going to be the highlight, the win, something that made you smile, something that made you happy. You could even kind of dive a little bit more into that simplicity, kind of how did you embrace something, pare some of those things down. You can certainly make those adjustments for the rosebud thorn, since we do it quite often, to kind of make it a little bit more either theme driven or just kind of the week you are. And then the bud, that's an emerging opportunity, something that you're looking forward to, something that's coming up, something that you maybe haven't decided if you're excited or not. It's just coming up. And then even the thorn, which is going to be that challenge, something that didn't go so well, something that spent too much time, energy, or effort on your part. For me, the rose, I actually ordered a new thing of makeup. I ordered a new primer. So I was excited to use it. I'm not a makeup girly. I really am not. I do the same thing that I've done for probably decades. I'm still stuck in the like pseudo 2000s. That's my style. But I've slowly been like incorporating new things, so I'm really excited about it because I've just been really pleased with how it looks for events and those type of things and how it's staying. So trying to subtly combat some of that aging and not looking tired process. And then the bud, an emerging opportunity for me. I do a drama class and we're putting on our end of term show on Tuesday. And I'm in two scenes, one of which I know really well. It's great. It's going to be great. I'm excited. The other one, we rehearsed it all weekend and we were so excited about it. And then we kind of blew off the first part of it because we're like, no, we know this. As soon as we started it in rehearsal, we tanked it. It was bad. And then when I got home, I knew all the lines, of course. So I was like, obviously, I got some work to do because we'll be doing that on Tuesday. And then Thorn Challenge, ironically, kind of goes with the schedule of simplicity that I talked about, which is why I was there. And I just felt like I was having to, it was a lack of communication around scheduling. I had to chase too many people, not only at work, but just personal, just tracking people down just for simple confirmations. And same thing with I appreciate that my dad puts up with all my question asking. So I feel like I know quite a bit about utilities and construction and those type of things. But I have a very, very large crane outside of my apartment, and it's been there all weekend, and they've been working all day, and I have no idea what they're doing, and it's just wrecking my view. So again, lack of communication around scheduling. So that's where I'm at. But if you would like to share your rosebud thorns in the chat, we would love to celebrate those wins, celebrate those roses, help cultivate some of those buds, as well as provide extra love, thought, and support around some of those thorns. And we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And please continue to share in the chat, even as we move on to kind of the next prompts. This is your all's time to kind of relieve some of that tension, unclench your jaws a little bit, share kind of all those thoughts, feelings, and emotions in the chat with our wonderful family here. But love seeing all of the just amazing lives you all are living, even with again those highs, the lows, and everything in between. It is such a lovely check-in, and again, getting a little bit nostalgia with, like I said, the end of the year stuff. I know we have a ton of educators within the Silk and Sonder family, but seeing all of those things, like I said, I get a little choked up. One of my younger cousins is graduating and seeing all the like senior festivities, graduating from high school. And it's just that kind of nostalgia. But I feel like, again, the good nostalgia, I would not want to switch places with any of them. But I enjoy it and I think fondly of it. So I feel like just being able to share these rosebud thorns, it's a little bit of that sigh of relief, a little bit of that moment of being able to put it out there and maybe free up some space in your head, in your soul, all of those things. But just knowing that you can be out there, and again, we're not alone. We can share those type of things. I feel like, again, like you said, I just feel like my shoulders settle a little bit more, and all those things. So that's why I always enjoy this. Reflection at the end of each week, because it is an opportunity to zoom out and see what the week was, because again, I can certainly pinpoint all of my frustrating things that happened this week, but being able to see the other things as well and then kind of pivot into more of that optimism, I think is great. And so now that we've kind of spent reflecting on the previous week, we can maybe pull some of that into setting up our pages for this upcoming week. And so this is your friendly reminder that sometimes the best way to approach these pages is to ask yourself, what do you need this week? And again, already seeing in the chat that sometimes what you need this week may look a little bit different just because your week is already going to look a little bit different. So there are going to be times where you will absolutely need the journal as written, all of those pages. Or maybe you're going to need something that is going to have a different version of it. You're going to have a repurposing section. Or again, maybe it's that you need a break. You need to kind of put that energy in elsewhere. You need to say no to this section so that you can put your energy elsewhere. And so keep that in mind, because there is no right or wrong way to journal. There is no right or wrong way to set up your pages. And there is no due date. No one is looking over your shoulder. So take what you need, not only with this social, but also with these pages, because these should be tools that can help you. It shouldn't be something that is negative or something that is triggering to kind of all those things. So we're going to start at the top of page 40 in your May journal. And so again, I'm going to bring in the goal orientation because I can't not. And that is, this time I want to feel this this week I want to feel how do I want to feel this time next week is always how I kind of start and embrace it of, again, I need that goal, I need that guidance, but will absolutely scatter in my habits and activities a little bit later. How can I still embrace some of those simple moments that are not heavily shadowed by my end goals? So, and sometimes asking yourself how you want to feel this time next week. I thought this happy little octopus was amazing. If you need a little bit of a bright spot, I think in social media on Instagram, Wonder Doodles is an amazing account to follow. She does amazing cartoons with these really cute little quotes. She's definitely Disney heavy, but I can't help but smile. It was the cute octopus. So I want to feel like that cute little octopus this time next week. And again, sometimes it's 1% better, 5% healthier. Sometimes it's more of something, less of something. Sometimes it is a sticker. Sometimes it's a vibe. Sometimes it's a couple different words, different phrases. Sometimes it's that friendly, helpful reminder. Sometimes it is just the quotes and all those things, or even the doodles. So I'm going to turn on a quick song, but again, how do you want to feel this time next week? And we'll see you soon. So now that we have this idea of how we want to feel this week, also don't forget that it doesn't have to be a new word each time. Maybe it can be your word of the year, your word of the month, embracing this theme, or even maybe this is a section that you just need to come back to because you don't really know how you want to feel. You want to kind of see what your week looks like, and then you'll determine how you're going to feel. I feel like that's a couple of ways I approach things. Someone tells me they have a problem. It's like, well, why don't you tell me what the situation is, and I will decide if I have a problem or not. And I feel like kind of being able to jump back and forth amongst all of these sections is really great. Because again, sometimes the simple adjustment of perspective can absolutely kind of bring you on board to something or make you throw your sucker in the dirt and pout about it. But we are now going to continue to stay on page 40, and I'm going to combine the next two sections with those weekly major three goals, as well as the weekly to-dos. And I came across this quote as well. I know I refer to myself as past me, present me, and then future me. And future me has got everything all planned out if she would just figure stuff out. So I thought this was kind of a nice reminder because I do put a lot of pressure on future me. I think it's still that goal orientation thing. But again, I thought it was another one of those of it doesn't matter. There's a lot that I can painstakingly plan for with all of these things, but sometimes things just happen. And again, attitude adjustments. I think that's really what I'm trying to embrace with the simplification of everything. Sometimes it's just my attitude. So we have our three major goals. And so you can break these up into categories, or these can be just the three big things that you need to get done this week, or the two things or the one thing. So maybe it's again, the categories, maybe you just want to celebrate the three things that are going on. Maybe it is just those friendly reminders. For me, it tends to be the emotional and mental reminders of how I need to get through this week and all those things. And again, maybe the goals are less of I need these three big goals for the week, and maybe it's I need kind of three focus points for each day. And so you have kind of an early morning goal, a midday goal, or an evening goal. Again, we love the alliteration, and sometimes it's just fun to kind of adjust how you approach some of these goals. And then you've got the bottom left one, which is again combining those to-dos into a bingo board, which we love the gamification of those things, which helps with the serotonin and embracing some of those kind of simple tasks. And then including it overlaying with the different categories as well as the focus of what do you want to do this particular week. And then maybe you want to focus on your routines. Maybe this is the week to focus on kind of saying, ooh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Maybe you want to adjust for this week for the say no to things. And maybe you want to kind of let go, leap into, and learn. Or maybe this is the weekly affirmations. You want to make those other changes. And then maybe it is just kind of those quotes and affirmations to get you through. Yeah, I think I'm good. And then maybe we now overlay some of those weekly to do. And I feel like this has been my attitude recently, which is me in the silly little bed, avoiding my silly little tasks. But I feel like even then I've been quite productive with my silly little tasks. And that is because I shifted from normally my to-do list and I did embrace the Eisenhower matrix just because I gonna head on vacation next week. Not this week, but the next week. And so I have quite a few things that I definitely need to track and get done just before I go on vacation and those type of things. So I've had to adjust to those things. And so maybe you need to make some adjustments there. Maybe it is a to-do list. Maybe it is a to-do list. Maybe it is that Eisenhower matrix. Maybe it is a bingo. Maybe it's the Pomodoro technique because you're carrying over some of that declutter concept. So breaking up the larger tasks into smaller tasks and setting those timers. Maybe it is, again, as a sticker or the friendly reminder, or maybe again, a don't do this or do this instead list. A needs and a wants is another great way to just recategorize and reprioritize that to-do list. Maybe this is where those weekly wins are. Maybe it is the weekly reminders of to be's, or maybe the simplified to dos. Maybe it is the not to do, the work, the personal, the needs, and the wants, being able to break it up into all of these different sections. So I'm going to give you time to work on these two sections. Would love to hear how you approach your weekly to dos and your goals, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Love seeing kind of what all you work on, how you're embracing it, how you're making adjustments. Because as we say, sometimes each week is going to look a little bit different, and something that worked last week is going to, the copy paste replicate is going to be fantastic for the upcoming week. Or maybe it's something that you got to kind of go back to the drawing board and do something different because this week looks different. So we're still on page 40. We're now at the bottom of the page with that habit and activity tracker. And so I use this habit, we'll embrace the habities. Maya, one of our other facilitators, calls them habities, and I just got all tripped up saying it as well. So clearly this is meant to be habities. But the habit and activity tracker for a weekly is something that I feel like goes hand in hand with the monthly tracker. The monthly tracker are the things that I personally want to do every single day. I will then carry over those tasks into my weekly setup, and that's where I add the lens of reality. What commitments have I said yes to? What activities do I want to say yes to? And that's how I kind of embrace this of what can I realistically get done. And so sometimes that is setting a goal. Maybe you want to do all of these things every single day. Maybe you want to do these 5 days of the week, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. Maybe you don't really want to have goals. Maybe it is again embracing that simplicity of things that you want to stop. Maybe this is where those mental and emotional reminders are: the be kind to yourself, the embrace the simple moments, the be more present, these ideas. Maybe it is the fact that you have different habits and activities that you do on weekdays versus weekends. And then again, just because there are 5 lines here does not mean you need to do 5 things. Maybe you just want to do 3, maybe it's 2. Maybe again, you're on vacation or holidays and you just want to enjoy it so you can cover it with stickers and come back to these as you will. This is going to be the case, certainly for me, with when stuff comes up like that. I would just want to be a little bit more present in the things that I already kind of want to do each week, which is move, journal, read, and find the sun. Those things are already kind of incorporated that I know I'm going to be able to cover. Even whether again I've got my structured, work day, my weekends, and even the vacations that I have planned. And then again, this is now a staple for my socials, with which is the 5 days to schedule every month. So maybe if you need something fun to schedule, you can certainly include one of these days: the unplug day, the self-care day, reset, learning, or even the fun. Because I certainly am one of those things. If you need another thing to another habit or activity, it is always add something fun. And that for me is like make a new playlist. Sing in the car, some of those really fun things that just kind of recharge and replenish you. But also think in terms of maybe it's something that you already are kind of doing, you just want to do it in a little bit different version. If you already are doing meal plan, meal prep, those things, maybe you get out the fancy dishes. Or instead of, as I'm here with my kind of aluminum cup, maybe I need to put it in the nice fancy wine glass, even though it is just Sprite. So I think it's those type of things that you can add to bring a little bit more magic or fun for things that you're already doing. And again, next slides. Iconography, again, sucker. So include these on your kind of made bucket list or adventure list. I repurpose my expense tracker to include my kind of bucket list type things that, again, I feel like I'm already doing. It's just that still like mental check-in of those type of things. Next time I make tea, I bring out the kind of fun fruity tea because I am now embracing the kind of made produce. I'm a big fan of that kind of component, the sustainability, especially more farmers markets are coming up. So being able to use and incorporate these, and to be honest, a lot of these are my favorite things. Love strawberries, mushrooms, and cucumbers, as well as asparagus. So when I start to see the stuff that I love, I get a little bit more excited to incorporate some of those. I feel like I got to trick myself sometimes. So being able to incorporate all those things that are there. And then I feel like it's again kind of what can we continue to get excited to in May. And then I really like the graphic of things that are out of your control and in your control, because as we've pointed out, a lot of it is something you can say yes and no to, but there are some things you just have to maybe adjust how you approach it a little bit more than any of us would like, but maybe that's what you need to do to simplify. So I'm going to give you some time to work on your habits and activities, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Love seeing the different things that you're working on. And again, I feel like I get such good ideas and inspiration from even just the chat going through of things that are like, ooh, that would be fun to incorporate, and all those things. So I always, like I said, I fangirl over what you all are doing as well. So now we're going to flip over to page 41 in your journal. And again, I am going to combine all of these sections as we wrap up, just because I lovingly refer to this as the B side. I'm a music person, so we just did the A side of that record, all of the staples, all the gems, all of the you know, top singles. And now we're moving over into the B side where there are definitely some hidden gems, and others that, again, I don't particularly use often. And that was just kind of my approach. Now, with this particular theme of simplicity, it was also kind of why I kind of came to the conclusion that I'm not going to continue to kind of force myself to be unsatisfied with like the partial things of what I needed and what I didn't need. And so if we start at the top, or well, really the left side of the page with the meal plan, this can absolutely be used as a meal plan if you're a meal planner, meal prepper for whatever healthcare journey you're on, if you're on budgeting, or again, if you've got upcoming special events. You can also use it as a real-time tracker. So if you're on, again, a particular journey or you're kind of tracking symptoms, or trying to figure out some of those things that can be a good use for that. Maybe this is where those kind of what good things are, or how did you simplify your life today? Embracing a little bit more of the meal plan for the soul. So maybe this is where the prompts are. I've seen an uptick in those doodles. Maybe this is where you just need to take that kind of 5 minute meditation, 5 minute breathing exercise, kind of the reminder there. And if you've attended any of Jen O's coloring socials, realizing that it is therapeutic to turn off the brain and some of those things and just give yourself that moment to just enjoy. Maybe again, it's the priorities. It is writing down some of those affirmations that you can get from the Silk and Sonder app. I always use this for a wardrobe planner or staple. I've had a couple of work conferences that I've traveled to, and I've used them for this. As I said, I've got vacation coming up, so I'm absolutely going to use this because I feel like I always, it's not that I overpack, I just get really annoyed with the like suitcase selection that I make, and I always rethink it because I have a ton of options. So I'm already getting a little anxious about which ones I'm going to take, which ones I want to take, because I don't like to feel like a pack mule. So I'm working on that. So this is really where I use this particular section. Maybe it is your highlights and your to-dos. And then we've got the mind body health plan. This is again something that you can plan for, something that you can plan ahead, or something you can do kind of each day as a reflection there. I like the idea of the feel and I need. Nathania, who's one of our regular socialers, this is something that she does when she wakes up. It's this is how I'm feeling, so this is what I need. It's that really simple mental check-in that I find so powerful, that I really think is great. Maybe this is where you give yourself that reminder to unplug. Maybe these are kind of the journal prompts. Maybe you really are focusing on those 7 types of rest. A reading log. Maybe this is where your declutter and cleaning schedule kind of is. I like, again, iconography. So simple ways that you can kind of fill your cup for the day. Maybe these are the reminders that you want to put there. And honestly, this bunny on the right, I want them to be my scheduler for the week. I don't know who their assistant is, but I want it because I really just wanted to copy and paste this and do all of these things. This is what my week is going to look like. I just need a like elegant sun hat and those tan overalls. But I love this. And then maybe the shopping list, you can use that again in conjunction with the meal plan. Maybe this is where those daily reminders are, the self-care reminders. This is where your bingo board is. Maybe you've got a graduation bingo, if that is the milestone that you guys are coming up on. Maybe it's the just for fun. Maybe it's a spring, maybe it's a getting excited for summer, maybe it is the decluttering boring stuff bingo. Any sort of theme, you can turn it into a bingo, and sometimes that's just really fun. So maybe it is a simple things bingo. Maybe it's those social check-ins. Again, I feel like I said, I equate this time almost as busy as the end of the year holidays, and I stand by that. So maybe this is a check-in that you need to kind of make with some of your friends and family. Maybe there's something that you can maybe simplify their lives or help help them or ask for help for them to simplify yours. Maybe again, more bingos, the quotes, the wardrobe planner, work from home, those type of things so that you don't avoid that. So I'm going to give you some time to work on this, and we will see you soon for wrapping up. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And that very last section is the I am loving, which is your opportunity to shout out what is making you happy, what is making you smile, what is maybe your rose of the week. I am still embracing my snail girl spring, and I've been really enjoying it. And so it's certainly something that I am still loving. And then I also, I am a big fan of this page, the currently page on page 9. And again, I am such a story person. I love telling stories. I love listening to stories. I obviously like reading stories. I suck Bailey into reading the same stories that I like to read. And I love that there are 3 lines to each of these because it gives me an opportunity. I check in diligently with this at the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, and the end of the month, just so I have a really nice beginning, middle, and end to what type of month I just had. And these always make me so happy, and I get to look back at it. And again, I think there's just it's so fun with such a simple page to the point I got really nervous with it initially because there were no instructions. That's just kind of how I have thought about it, and I get just so much satisfaction of attempting it. So I absolutely encourage you to find the magic in this page because it really is. It is. It's magical. And as always, can you believe we have reached the end? We would love to continue the conversation in the Silk and Sonder app. As always, if you want to share your pages, we love getting inspiration there. And I know our Sonder fam appreciates not only celebrating your all's ideas and inspiration, but getting that in return. So thank you everybody for joining us. We still have a lot of our offerings with those the AI personalized coach. I know Bailey is a huge fan. She and Jenny are besties, as well as the YouTube video. You can always catch up on those, especially if you need a social, they're there. And then, as always, this is a copy of my playlist. I will include the link to Spotify. And we hope to see you at future events. Honestly, Bailey and I will be back tomorrow. And so we're excited to do that. And so hopefully we'll see you again. You guys are going to have an amazing rest of your day, an amazing rest of the weekend, an amazing week. Again, happy Mother's Days to those that have that. We know that it can be a little bit it can be a little bit tricky on both sides. One, the excitement, but also the kind of downside to that. So the thoughts and emotion, and we embrace all of those. So we hope that if you need the extra love and support, we're here for that. But we hope to see you again at another event real soon. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.